Hello guys, welcome to the Method Season 4 recap. My name is Grant and today I am joined by three very talented, handsome gamers, part of Method's raid team. First of all, we have our token American, the firefighter himself, a man I saw squat a very large amount of weight today. It's Bjartuur. BJ is what we're going to call you in this video, which is hilarious. How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Glad to be here. I'm new to the guilds, play Fire Mage, and yeah, that's about it. Came over from pieces after the disband. Unfortunate, but here we are with a lot of my friends.
It's good to meet you, man. We're really happy to see you, and I've been watching you progress in like the reclears and stuff, and you've been really kicking some ass. Coming up next, we have one of my favorite humans on the planet. It is Kwepp. No, it's Dan. Danwarr, Daniel Warriorton. How are you today, my dude?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm really good. Happy to be talking again. I love talking about anything.
We love hearing you talk. So a little bit about you, Dan. What do you play in the guild? How long have you been in?
Warrior. I've been in since the rebuild started, so pretty much right at the end of BFA. Saw Nathria, saw Sanctum, saw Sepulchre. Have seen the rise that Method's been on, and it's been pretty sick so far.
It's been amazing.
I've been enjoying it a ton.
You're not the only one. There's a reason I signed on. And finally, we have everyone's favorite DK, as well as like a UI genius, a man who's played to profile I stole a long time ago and will never give up. It is Kwepp. Kwepp, how are you, mate?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. I guess you're gonna ask a bit about me. Well, Kwepp, obviously. I play DK in Method. I've been in Method since Sepulchre. I joined in Sanctum Farm. And yeah, I help with UIs as well, I guess. So yeah,
you're a smart cookie. Okay, so this video, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss our overall feelings about the Fated system, as well as Season 4 in Mythic Plus. We're going to talk about a bunch of things, but we're going to start off, first of all, with the Fated raids. Of course, we've now had a full rotation, and now coming up to the end of our second rotation of Castle Nathria. I'm going to start with you, BJ. And my first question is, how is the upscaling? How do you feel it's been? Let's talk about Nathria specifically. Do you feel like it's been a challenge? Have you enjoyed that challenge?
I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's that challenging, but I think it's appropriate for what Season 4 of this game should be, right? The expansion's winding down. We're all looking forward to Dragonflight. I don't think many people want this season to be a grind or something that they log into and, like, it takes 15, 20 wipes to kill a boss. We all just, want to get in, get out, but add a little bit of a flavor to it, spice it up, make it interesting. And I think this achieves the goal of that.
Daniel, any thoughts to add on to Mr. BJ there?
No, I think that's just about covered it. I did hear as we were coming into the season that the normal typical scaling that you see going from one tier to another is a certain percentage. I think it's 1.3, I want to say. At least that's how M Plus works, and we figured it might be something similar coming into this, but it was significantly less. So I think it has been specifically tuned to not be like Progress 2.0, which, again, as BJ said, is perfect for this moment in the expansion. It should just be a fun blast with chums. Like that's about it, really.
Kwepp, an agreement there? Anything to add finally before we move on?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the first week I'd say was like harder than the other weeks, just because we had like a lack of gear in that.
Yeah.
But like BJ said, it's pretty much just nice to have a bit of flavor and just do it. It's better than just doing Sepulchre over and over again with maxed out gear, right? Like and also the affixes add a little bit of extra to it, which is nice. Although there's only one that I think's really fun. That's the Essence one with all the little ads. That's as you get to pad a lot, right?
Yeah.
But apart from that, yeah, it's fun, dude.
No,
I want
to talk about the affixes next. I'm going to go back to BJ and go back around again. Are they impactful enough? Do they add enough to make this interesting? Now, one thing I do want to sort of preface this with is the general consensus is there was only 2 developers that worked on this. It was very difficult to develop some big overhaul when, both teams are working on Dragonflight and beyond. So we got those. Is it 3 or 4 affixes? I've completely forgotten right now.
4, I think.
4, yeah.
4.
Yeah. Are they impactful enough? And talk me through, is there one that you really like? Is it, I mean, you play Fire Mage, so you're just a melee from far away, but, and Fire Mages just want to pad as well. Are they impactful enough? Did you enjoy them?
I'll be honest, the only one that feels impactful is the one where you dispel a player and you have to catch things, because it forces movement on a fight where there wouldn't be any previously. The rest of them, to me, I kind of just ignore. Like unless they tell me, hey, go kick the orb that's out in Africa, and you kick it and it gets gripped in. Like other than that, I don't pay attention to it because I mean the melee are going to cleave down the orbs anyway. I don't need you don't need to add my pad to it. It doesn't matter. I just hit the boss.
Yeah.
So besides the catch thing, does it feel impactful? Not really.
Okay.
But do I want it to be? At the same time, like we just discussed, season 4 should just kind of be just a romp with friends. You get in, get out. I'm okay with it.
And Dan, for you, do you feel the kind of same as it? You like the melee one where you can just spin around in circles because that's what warriors do. The Dispel one, I saw that on Dinars last night, actually, on your reclear from your stream. And we'll talk about your streams later, don't worry. That seemed really fun on a fight that's so movement heavy. Did that, I mean, it's not going to hit on every boss, but do you feel there are certain bosses it really does hit on?
I mean, yeah, Dinars is a perfect example because you've got to think about the actual timings of the dispels so that they don't overlap with, let's say, a blood price where nobody can move and actually soak it. There are some bosses where the right affix can be very meaningful, actually feel like it adds something, but that is honestly the only fight probably where it's going to feel like it adds something, unless there's, say, let's say the kick affix on a kick heavy fight anyway. So something like the kick affix on
Anduin?
Pantheon in Sepulchre, Anduin potentially, yeah. Like, maybe that could add a little bit of something, but normally there's enough kicks still left in the raid for that to not be hugely impactful anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. I just like padding, man. I just like spinning. I like spinning. I like doing numbers. Honestly, the most fun thing was Stone Legion Generals this week. I know these two are going to see that later today. Stone Legion Generals this week was honestly so fun because it's the moats. So not only do you have the pad from the skirmishes, you have pad from moats as well.
Yeah,
there's
I'll
just
see you later,
numbers.
bro.
Yeah. It's the worst part
Mate,
of all
there's just
time,
no. There's numbers all over the screen. You can't.
I'm
Come
not
on.
an
There's
average.
honestly telling you. And there's also a bug that makes the fight significantly shorter. But
with
we
the
don't need to go
mages
into that
and-
in a moment.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that does
I'm
help.
useful.
Yeah. You're always useful,
think-
BJ.
I think the affixes aren't really that impactful. But although I will say, like the first week of Nathria, we had the Dispel and Soak one on SLG, and now it's absolute carnage. Like everyone's getting pushed back. You have to soak the things. You got the Meteor to soak as well. So that was pretty rough. But yeah, it's all right. I mean, I don't really like the kick one because I have to. Yeah, SLG as well.
Come on
sucks,
now.
but like,
Come on now.
I don't like the kick one because I'm the one who has to grip it in, and that's the GCD,
true.
so
Yeah,
less
true.
pad. But apart from that, yeah, it's all right. I wouldn't say it's like insane, but like you said, there's only 2 devs working on it, and I think you've done a pretty good job considering there's only 2 people that have worked on it. So yeah.
Finally, before moving on from this, we've got a couple more points to talk about. The one I really want to talk about is, can this be done with other raids? Old raids, really old raids. Is there a universe, and we're going to go in reverse this time and start with Kwepp, just to mix it up a bit, where we see Legion, where we see WOD raids? And if so, I'd like to know, and you two at the top get a bit longer here, what raid would you love to see in a fated environment? Start with you, Kwepp. And why?
Yeah, I think it could work. It could definitely work, but I think they'd have to remake the affixes based on the expansion. That would be, because imagine Tomb of Sargeras with the soak mechanic on Kill Jaden, right? Like, like it's not great, right? I could definitely see it. And if I wanted a raid to be fated, I'd say probably like Nighthold. Nighthold would be pretty. That was a good raid, yeah. Either Nighthold or Tomb actually, but I'd say Nighthold probably for me.
Dude, could you imagine the haste buff of the catch mechanic with Elisan's speed up?
Yeah,
Oh my god.
We could be F1 cars. Dan,
Yeah.
any raids you'd like to see? Any raids? And again, even talk about affixes that you'd like to see carried over. Anything you can think of.
That's significantly harder. Anything that lets us pad more is always good. But
Melee.
I'm telling you, just for the sake of wanting to be able to play it again, I would love to see Throne of Thunder fated. Not because I think the affixes would work particularly well, not because I think that it would particularly lend itself well to a fated type raid, but just because the raid itself was so good. Like the number of fights in there that were Lei Shen, one of the best bosses of all time. We'll ignore Raden, he doesn't exist. But you've got Lei Shen in there. Like, who else was really good? The second boss, which I can never remember the name of, was also really good.
Mordor?
G-Kun, that's the one. G-Kun, I thought was brilliant as well. Even Duramu in Mythic, I thought was insane. Like, I don't know. That raid was so sick. I want to see that. It would be nice if they could do it with older raids. I can't imagine it being significantly harder to scale up properly, though. But, I mean, if they've managed to effectively do 3 raids scaling them up, albeit fairly recently with 2 devs, then imagine what they could do with like a full team.
That was my logic.
That would be so good. That'd be sick.
BJ, you, and then I'm going to drop one in because I'm a lot older than most of you guys, I feel like, and I want to drop an old boy in.
To what Dan said specifically, like the star of this is the scaled up raids. It's not the affixes. Like they add a little bit to it, just a little bit of flavor, something new. But at the end of the day, if they can take the tech that they did to scale up Nathria, to scale up Sanctum, and bring that back to Throne, which is my personal favorite, like Dan's, or Siege, or any, even going back earlier, Firelands.
Yeah, that's
personally.
my one.
There you go. Just scale those up, bring them back. Now, my only concern would be the scaled up gear.
Yes.
If there's trinkets from old raids and those raids are on a cycle and they only come in once every 2 months because they have like 8 of them,
that's
your one chance to get a piece of like an incredible trinket, that's going to be frustrating.
So,
but the system itself, awesome.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, obviously, we've been reintroduced to a huge amount of gear, and all of us have been hunting different gear. Let's start with broker coins, because generally seems like a great system. BJ, happy with that? Happy being able to go and buy your favorite trinket after a few weeks, upgrade your gear? Is there anything that could have improved that for you?
No, I mean, it feels pretty good right now. I really hope that it somehow carries into like next expansion, because I'm worried that every time a new expansion comes out, they're going to pull out the quality of life systems, and I hope they don't, or if they do, they delay it only like 4 weeks and then they put it back in. Just something, carry that forward. Don't remove it, please. It's good.
Dan, happy with them?
No, I completely agree with that. I think this is something that could even act for like guilds lower down in the rankings, like top 100, top 200, 300, so on. This can honestly act as effectively a soft nerf to the raids as well. Sure, they can't make it quite as far into the raid to get all the gear that they want, but they can still have legitimacy for going through heroic, going through normal, getting the gear from there, and then upgrading it. And if the more powerful stuff's going to come from towards the end anyway, these kinds of upgrades, they are going to act as a good soft nerf to the raid without impacting the way each boss plays too much, which is exactly what we saw with Halondrus, which is now not a boss at all, and it kind of ruined it a little bit because people weren't able to experience an even remotely challenging Halondrus, which is a bit of a shame, really, because I think people would have enjoyed it. People would have enjoyed it. Honestly, they would.
It was great. And just to add to that, I guess, coming onto our final melee player, getting things like that Japhis, which is it doesn't drop. It doesn't exist. I'm fairly certain. Like standard, you cannot get it drop. But to be able to get that and then start feeding it because it's a very hungry sword is great. Kwepp, agreed. It feel good for you to be able to get the trinkets and weapons you wanted as a priority straight away.
It's nice to have like a deterministic way of getting things that you want, right? But I do think that the Dinars are mainly there, I think, because the vault pool was massive, right? With 3 raids, you got so much gear, so you kind of need something like Dinars to be able to actually eventually get the pieces you want, right? So they could do like a nerfed version of Dinars. I think putting 3 Dinars in like a season is a bit too much, maybe. They probably wouldn't do that, even though I'd like that. Don't think they'd do that. But I think a lot of people like Dinars because they like that way of being able to target a certain piece of gear and get it. So maybe if they don't put Dinars in, they could put some kind of system in, maybe even like reroll coins again. You get 3 reroll coins and you just to get the piece you want, right? Because that's the main thing I think that people like about Dinars. They can just grab whatever they want.
Question and suggestion. What would you think about, let's say, being able to target your mythic box to a raid? Like a piece of loot you want drops out of Castle Nathria, but this week we're doing Sanctum Farm. And you could just say, roll me Nathria loot.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Wouldn't mind it. I think it was a bit much immediate. I didn't expect in the first rotation of raids for all of the previous raids loot to be added immediately. I would have thought they would have done a targeted Nathria vault first, and then a Sanctum vault for that relevant vault, and then a Sepulchre one, and then throw them all in.
Yeah.
But the fact that it
Once
started
you've
that
cleared them,
early,
right? It felt strange to be getting loot from.
It's like we've done Sanctum this week, but my vault is entirely Nathria loot, and it's all garbage. So why that feels a little bit wasteful. I'll be honest, I actually don't care about the Dinar system that much. What I do want to see carried forward, even to progress, is genuinely the upgrade token system that they've got in. The heroic and mythic tokens that they've got, farm X amount per week and then just slowly upgrade the loot from there. The Dinar system, I don't think necessarily needs to carry forward, especially as Kwepp said. I think it is more of a fail-safe for the fact that we've got eventually 3 raids out at the same time. But the upgrade tokens, they need to stay. I think they add so much legitimacy to lower difficulties that it just helps. It helps massively when it comes to, trying to pug together lower raids, because you get more. I don't want to say. This doesn't. I don't mean this to sound how it's going to sound, but you're going to get higher quality of player signing for your pug. Genuinely,
Daniel,
you'll get higher quality of player. The pugs will go smoother. Everyone will get their loot. Everyone will be happy. You can upgrade it. Great, lovely, happy days.
You've never pugged in your life. What are you talking about?
Never pugged in his life. No. I'd love to see Dan.
1%, dude.
I want to see Dan do LFR just to experience it.
I'll do it on raids. I'll do it on stream tomorrow.
Yes. Okay. 2 more quick questions. Do you like that it's a rotation, or would you prefer to be able to pick?
Pick.
Yep. Tough one.
I'll play devil's advocate. I like that it's a rotation. I like that there's some, like, a tiny bit of FOMO to this. But like we already stressed on the loot thing, it's gonna feel bad if you can't loot an item for 2 months, right?
Yeah.
So as long as that's in place, like where there's a system where you can target something, I like the rotation.
I also think, and I'll give Dan a few more seconds here, for you guys, it being on a rotation doesn't matter. You're clearing week 1. Every time, no doubt about it. You know, for World Rank 1000, they're not. Maybe they want to take a 2nd or a 3rd week to go and do Nathria because it takes them that long. You know, they don't raid as long and they're not quite as experienced. So I guess the devil's advocate there is it could be nice to be able to say, okay, we're going to spend the first month on Nathria and then a few weeks when we're a bit better geared. It might take a little bit less for Sanctum, and then Sepulchre, you know, isn't too bad because we're fully geared by that point. So I kind of, I'd like the idea from a I'm not as good as you guys point of view that I could pick and extend, so to speak, and keep going. Dan, I'll let you finish this one off.
I feel like, for me personally, when they are all opened up together, I'm going to prefer that more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because then we get to do the absolute godsend world tour.
I can't wait.
All the bosses, going into the end bosses, getting all the good loot, and just getting out again. It's going to equal 12 bosses, which is more than any full clear than we'll have had to have done this expansion anyway. So in terms of the raw number of bosses, it's going to take longer, but it's just going to be so nice purely for an end of expansion thing. If they were to take it forward, then it would need to be looked at, and I guess picking raids is probably a better option. I guess, but then you end up in a situation of, if you can pick the raid and then only do one of these fated raids per week, if it, say, locks you out of the other ones because you picked Castle Nathria, so you can't do the other two, there's going to be friction within guilds. Oh, I don't need anything from Nathria. Why are we doing this? I don't get my Jaethus, I don't get my Gavel, I don't get XYZ.
The tyrannical officers are at it again.
They're at it again, dude. Unbelievable.
Gearing their ults for the 19th week of Nathria.
Yeah, how could Biff do this to us?
All Dan wants is his Jaethus. Okay, one final question before we talk about some dungeons here. Should they do this again in Dragonflight? Kwepp?
Yeah, I think Ian actually mentioned in the interview he did with Max the other day. I'm pretty sure he mentioned that this is like an experiment, and they're probably going to do it again in Dragonflight, like revisit all the greatest hits of the expansion. So, but yeah, I do think it's definitely better than just doing the final tier over and over again. It's nice to just mix it up a bit, have a bit of fun with it. So yeah, I think it should be coming back in Dragonflight. Yep.
Daniel Warrington?
Yeah. Take it forward, but add older raids as well. Honestly, I think at the end of the expansion, it'll be cool having all of the raids of that expansion to do, but we've done them. You know, we're seeing even older stuff. I mean, even scale them properly and just don't have them drop loot.
Cosmetics.
Or be very selective with the loot that drops, or make it all cosmetic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think, especially if it's going to be an end of expansion thing, I'll be honest, I don't think very many people will care that much about the loot. It's only going to be leveling fodder anyway for Dragonflight, so I'm not that bothered. Just, yeah, give us the older raids.
And BJ.
Yeah, same thing. Just don't cap it to only Dragonflight expansion. Give us the older stuff. And actually, like you said, cosmetics. Do you remember during Trial of Valor, completing the raid gave you a like themed set?
Yep.
If they could do that with the older raids, where just completing it right would give you the themed set for your class that was that expansion. Maybe a recolor if they don't want it to be the same or something.
Yeah.
Or
It's a
something
great
like
idea. And again, mounts, recolor the old mounts from those, you know, the ones that are gone, things like that. It would be really cool. I think overall, the general method consensus is this has been a success. Okay, let's move on to dungeons. First thing up, I want to talk about Shrouded, the affix. Pick a buff, have permanent, lust by the end of it. Let's be real, that's most of it. How are you feeling about it from a mage point of view, BJ?
I don't know about it from a specific like class standpoint. I mean, I like the haste; it helps with flame patch or whatever. Whenever I take that, but I do think it fails in a lot of the rerouting capabilities that I forget the name of the affix from 8.3, but the one where you could make portals by defeating those and you could reroute your way through the dungeon. To me, that's the best version of an affix.
Yeah.
When it allows you to change up a dungeon's route, something to spice it up. To me, this is the same. You still like would use a rogue shroud or invis pot where you would invis pot. You still skip the same trash because it all like sucks.
And
but the buff is nice. It's cool. Lets you do more DPS, but I think it fails in the greater sense of like varying up the dungeon.
Changing the dungeons, yeah.
Right.
Dan, Mr. Warrior Hunter as well, of course. How do you feel about Shrouded as an affix?
The Hunter's dead. Drop that immediately after last season was over. No, it's good. I like it. It falls very much into clearly what they've tried to do in the last 2 seasons of having a kiss curse seasonal affix that tries not its best and not get in the way. It's just part of the packs. It's not going to change how you path much. It's not tied around 20% thresholds, which is the absolute bane of M+. I hate those. Prideful. As fun as Reaping was, because it was just an AoE fest, it was still tied around 20% thresholds.
I love Prideful,
and it meant you were crafting these routes.
I love Prideful.
To fit these 20%, thresholds on bosses and stuff, and I didn't like that because it's an arbitrary factor in making the route, which I don't think is great. I am with BJ about the Awakening affix at the end of BFA, which was sick because it allowed you to craft your own routes, but you weren't forced to do it. You could just kill the mob right there and then come straight back out again, if you didn't want to deal with it on a last boss. But this one specifically, it's been a pretty good success. I don't know. It's fun. I like being very fast.
And finally, Kwepp, any thoughts to add to this?
It's fun. More stats. So I mostly play Blood and Keys, right? So lots of haste. It's pretty disgusting, actually, the damage you can do on it. But to be honest, it's a good point about Awakened. I think it was the affix in BFA. The last one. Yeah, I think another reason why people liked Encrypted so much was also because it would affect the fact that you could skip things, make your own routes, as well as get cooldown reduction on your abilities. Right, so you could do like bigger pulls or like back-to-back big pulls, etc. So I feel like those affixes should kind of be like the general thing they go for. I think.
It's not a coincidence that every time there's an affix that invalidates Rogue Shroud, the affix is good.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
But we all hate rogues.
I think that coincides with dungeon design too.
Yes.
When you have a press W dungeon, like generally people hate it, and there's a reason for that, right? When you give us a wide open dungeon, an Eye of Ashara or what was the freeholds, like things like that, where you can just run wherever you can pick. I like that pack. I hate that pack. We can skip that without a rogue shroud. Just run wherever, do whatever.
Yeah.
To me, those are more successful in general. And then the affix necessarily isn't as required. But when you have a bunch of press W dungeons where it feels like packs required, then the affix comes in handy more.
All right.
Like King's Rest, right? Like
Yeah.
Next question. Let's see if we can do it all at the same time. What is the worst dungeon in this current pool? 3, 2, 1. Grimrail.
No, not Grimrail.
No?
I like Grimrail.
What
Which
do you
Karazhan
dislike
is it, Dan?
more
Even
than
even
Grimrail?
as a melee player, I like Grimrail. My
Lower?
least favorite in this pool, probably lower.
I can
I
see
think lower is
mad.
better than
just
Grimrail, but
it's horrifically overtuned and it's
Yeah.
too long.
that's
Grimrail at least is short. The only problem is that you can't see a thing on the train, but
Yeah.
you know that's kind of whatever.
And-
I just don't think it's the worst one. I think design-wise, it's still good in terms of what the trash does.
Okay, let's talk about how the dungeons were picked, because obviously it was picked by a fan vote. Grimrail kind of became the Boaty McBoatface, where people voted for it just because it was funny, and now we're stuck dealing with it. Is there a better way to do this? Is this maybe something I wrote down that the WoW Community Council should have had more of a say in? And obviously we'd like to know that there's a lot of top Mythic Plus players in that council, if that was going to be the case, with it affecting the Great Push, the MDI, and all that stuff. What's the best way, if we are going to do throwback dungeons, what is the best way? Do we have any idea? BJ?
I don't know, because honestly, you can ask like any variety of players, and they will have different responses.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, we all have different favorite dungeons from the history of this game. And there's some really high-end players that prefer press W shit, and there's some really low-end players that love like wide open things. I don't think there's a great way to pull a small section of the WoW community and get a fantastic answer out of it. I don't think there's a perfect solution to any of this.
Yeah.
No.
Dan, in agreement there? Is there a correct
Yeah,
way?
yeah.
I don't believe
I
there is myself.
don't think so. I think a vote is the only way that they could do it even remotely fairly, because at least out of the people that bother to vote, you've got a good sample size of what people want to see. And even if they are, because they are going to plan on doing the similar type of thing going forward through Dragonflight, you know, if they wanted to set up votes again, then they can put, let's say, dungeons that were close to making it but didn't quite make it into the pool next time round, and see people get that one as well as some other vastly different dungeons. Like, yeah, it is the only way that's going to happen. That it would be, it's the best way for it to happen, but it'll still lead to problems. Of course, it will.
I think
because
Blizzard themselves would have to omit things from the vote.
Yeah.
Like they would just have to remove Grimrail from the voting system and then let us pick other crap.
Yeah.
I think definitely care needs to be made, or care needs to be taken when thinking about the current pool of affixes based on the old dungeons, because they didn't have those issues. Like Grimrail again is a perfect example. As much as I don't hate that dungeon, where Sanguine, Storming, Quaking, eventually Spiteful for melee players. Good luck running away from those. Like it's a bit of a pain. And I think care just needs to be taken when considering that in the future, I guess.
What's the affix where a mob in a pack makes the rest of it unkickable?
Inspiring.
Inspired, right. So that didn't exist in Legion.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that Lower Karazhan was not designed with that in mind.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Definitely. Kwepp, any final thoughts? Or I'm going to ask you a different question.
Well, to be honest, mostly what BJ and Dan said. I think like the vote is the problem is, right, it's like the classic, WoW community problem. Like it's such a big player base of loads of different players that someone's going to be mad one way or another, right? So you kind of just, I think a vote is probably the most fair way of doing it. And I understand why some people might have thought that Grimrail was fun, like, it's a moving train bat chest,
Yeah.
like super fun. But when you add like affixes to it, they don't think about that, right?
No.
Like you did it back in the day with the boys and like heroic, right? And it was fun. But then you add
It's
like
different
Dan
at
said,
plus 28, right?
yeah, like sanguine and shit like that. It's just like absolutely demonic, So it's not that fun. But you're gonna have those issues no matter which way you do it, right? Like there's always gonna be people unhappy. So I guess it's just, I think a vote's the best way of doing it.
I think just because these things work with challenge modes doesn't mean they'll work in Mythic Plus. They're
very
two
different.
entirely different
Well,
sets
was
of
Grimrail the
dungeons.
first time you ever had a moving background in any kind of instanced environment?
We'll pretend yes, because I have no idea. I'm old.
Because I think it's novelty of
I
it.
don't
Like,
remember.
it is the novelty of it. It looks cool. People remember it looking cool, and because it looks cool, it feels cool. But then, like you said, at a plus 28,
and it gets sold pretty quick too. Let's be real. Okay, let's talk about this current pool. Best dungeons. Again, I think we may have a main agreement here. Kwepp, any dungeons that you really enjoy?
Junkyard's always fun.
There we go.
Junkyard's great. It's very open. But I think it's a tie. Contrary to Dan, I'd say I really like lower, but maybe that's just because I do weekly no levers and I don't do high keys. Maybe that's why. But I like lower a lot. I got a lot of throwbacks from Legion back when I did keys and Legion, so it's nice to go back. But I'd say overall, probably Junkyard's my favorite.
Daniel?
Even though it's a press W dungeon, I actually love Workshop.
Yes, me too.
It's probably one of my favorite dungeons out of any M+ of all time. I think it's Workshop is what King's Rest should have been, and that is how you make a press W dungeon actually fine.
But it has
the trash is
as well.
Yeah, the trash is not particularly in the way. Like the first pack is soloed by a tank. You can skip the majority of the second packs. The later packs after that with all the robots and stuff, yeah, they're quite hard, but at least they're interesting. And the bosses are varied and pretty unique. And I mean, I don't know. I love Workshop.
And I like this from you being able to do the tank trick on the dog boss, things like that. Just these small, interesting strategies that Workshop has. I really enjoy that dungeon myself. BJ, favorite?
For nostalgia, Upper Karazhan.
I love that.
Because I used to be a really high key pusher back in Legion, so I remember doing that key on plus 28, plus 30, whatever we were doing it at the time. And there's tricks that you can do as mage in that dungeon, specifically if you have a warlock and you can hearth out and respec. Which you used to play Frost in that key up through Curator. And if you had a warrior tank who could spell reflect the arcane missiles back onto Medivh, it puts an arcane damage taken increase on him. So you'd hearth out, go arcane for Medivh and blow up the boss. And you'd go back Frost for double ice block, so you could soak on Worm, and then you'd play Fire for the chess event. There was just crazy things that you could do in that key back in the day. And I remember those. It's a good nostalgia feeling, so I enjoy Upper.
Okay. Final couple of questions here, because I know you guys have to raid. Should they do this again? What other dungeons, if you had to pick one, would you like to see pulled through? We're going to go Kwepp again.
Yes, definitely like to see it again. As for what dungeon, to be honest, I'm a bit of a zoomer, so I haven't been raiding and playing the game much since WoD. So WoD was when I started actually playing, so I can only really think about WoD and maybe a bit of MoP actually. Stormstout Brewery was kind of fun. I quite like Stormstout Brewery. I can't really, honestly, off the top of my head, I can't really think, to be honest, of what Everbloom, actually, that would be a sick dungeon. I think Everbloom would be great to see.
A lot of choices and trash in Everbloom. Daniel?
Yeah. I mean, not should they bring it back. They are bringing it back. That's apparently going to be what's going to happen through every season. I think doing it, just as an aside, I think doing it in Season 1 is a mistake.
Yes.
I actually think that they should have all 8 new Dragonflight dungeons available for Season 1 of Mythic Plus, take 4 out, put 4 old ones in, and then rotate those in Season 3, and then completely open the taps on Season 4 if there is one. But yeah, it's good that it's going to be coming back. Dungeon that I'd like to see, there's none in particular that stand out. They're all going to have their own little quirks. Just don't go back any further than
MoP.
Yeah, probably. Don't go back any further than MoP. Kata dungeons were
some.
I got one.
What was that Sky one?
Skyhold. Is that what it's called?
Was it Skyhold?
Sky one when? In Kata?
In Kata, yeah.
Oh, the one that's
next
up by
to
Throne of the
Arakir,
Four
right?
Winds.
Yeah.
Throne of the
Throne of the Four Winds is the raid.
But that other one.
Vortex Pinnacle, wasn't it?
Vortex
there you go.
That's the one. Yeah, I think that one might work quite well. But yeah, there are very few that I think would work particularly well pre-MoP. Even a lot of the MoP ones I don't think will work. I'm going to be very interested to see how Temple of the Jade Serpent works out. Although I think Stormstout Brewery could be quite good, but I just really like the voice lines in Stormstout Brewery.
Yeah,
that's just a funny as hell dungeon. Pickles, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
but it's just funny. It's a funny dungeon. I love that place. But yeah, we'll see.
BJ, do you have one? Maybe a boomer pick for us?
I'm about to be a hypocrite because I've talked shit on Press W dungeons so far, but I'm about to suggest one. Grim Batol.
Ooh.
So the reason being, if you remember, there's a mechanic in that dungeon where you get on a dragon and then you fire and you eliminate. So I think it's overtuned in that if you do that right with a 5-man team, you can eliminate all the trash in the dungeon.
Yes.
But if they reduce the amount of damage that it does, and you all have to, like, let's say you have to pick specific packs,
You'll
you'd be
have
like,
5 shots.
we're gonna eliminate this from from the dungeon. And that's its own affix within the dungeon. You can just be like, I don't like that trash pack. Let's get rid of it this time.
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
That's
Different weeks you reduce different things. You know, this pack needs loads of kicks and it's inspired. Let's get rid of it this week.
Make eliminating it not give count as well.
Yes.
Ooh. And then see what happens in bugs because of that.
What if one of the mobs is like higher HP, like pool, than the others? Then it's sanguine. So you kill all the 4 around it, and it instantly
That's really good. Okay, final things before we go, and I'll let you guys raid. The gear that has been brought back, old trinkets from WoD, for example, weapons and things like that. Is it good that they're upscaled? Are there any that you're like, this is silly? Are you happy, unhappy that gear is relevant? Not only relevant, but being used? BJ, anything for you, particularly as a mage, first of all?
I'm trying to think. The Orb of Torment from Sanctum is a good trinket for us, and then also like Meat Hook from what is it, Iron Docks is a good trinket. I enjoy having that variety brought back in the game, and also thank God I don't have to use a PvP trinket this season.
Very true. You don't have to play PvP at all on 500 ping or whatever. 200 ping.
Yep, not fun. Not my favorite part of the game, but like we touched on earlier, as long as there's just a system, like a little bit of bad luck protection to that, where I can kind of target a piece of loot and I'm not bashing my head against the wall, week after week after week, and just not getting a piece to drop, or if it's on a cycle, not being able to get it for 4 months or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Daniel?
I think it's been done really well. And like BJ said, it's mostly trinkets. There's the I know Kwepp's going to say this as well, but the grenade and Iron Docks. The grenade, a really strong 2-minute trinket. It's basically just sigil on steroids. It's insanely good. I think the biggest problem gear that they could have had, which they then eliminated, which showed that they thought about it a little bit, was the shared pool of necks and rings across the WoD dungeons, because they had primary stat on them, and they would have been an absolute, even with the Mechagon rings, they would have been an absolute go-to for everyone with primary stat. 100%. So the fact that they thought about it enough to just take those out of the pool, and you would have seen them every single key you did, because there was a lot of them. The fact that they took those out, it shows they thought about it a bit, and it was really good foresight on their part, I think.
And Kwepp, finally, from a tank point of view.
Yes. There's loads of good trinkets.
There is.
Cap. But yeah, no.
Raid's giving you your trinkets that are good, though. I've got to say, you've got some good raid trinkets now.
Yeah. I mean, it is good, like, in general. Like, in the raids, it's great. But for the dungeons, I don't know, like, bringing back old items can be a balancing nightmare sometimes. And it's because the problem is, let's say we go on to, like, a next pool of dungeons, like in Dragonflight, right? You could have an IQD situation, and maybe there's a really broken trinket in the previous season, but it's so broken that you have to use it in the next season, even if it's like a whole tier behind. Like, I mean, there's trinkets like a Nighthold. I imagine if warriors to get Convergence of Fates again, from like like I remember doing that, going back into Mythic, even though in Antorus, to try and get that trinket. So if they had trinkets like that, it could be a bit messy, right? But yeah.
Razor Coral is another one.
Oh, don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hot Snapshotting comes back in the game. Unearing Visions of Lei Shin, Faded Raid.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
Make WoW great again.
They have to be careful, but overall, I think it's really good. But yeah, they do have to be careful with what they put in, because it could be a balancing nightmare, right?
Yeah. I do think it's fair to say, from a method point of view, obviously I've only got a small Brexit-based opinion plus a firefighter here to get, but we're happy with season 4. It's been really fun. It's enjoyable. It's way better than doing the same raid for 9, 10, 11, 12 months even, as we've seen in the past, and we're very happy. I think that's pretty much all we have here. I know you guys have to go and raid, at least a couple of you, in a moment, so I want to do some final thank yous and things like that. So Kwepp, first of all, where can people find you? We are also going to have this in the description. below. I don't know if that's actually a thing. I'm now making the editor do more work. Thank you, Mr. Editor.
Nice.
But Kwepp, where can people find you very quickly?
I'm pretty much on Twitter and Twitch, just Kwepp. That's pretty much it. Managed to get the handle on both of those.
Let's go.
That's pretty much where I hang out. Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, Twitch Dan_War, Twitter Method_Danwarr. Go follow my Twitter. I want more numbers. I like numbers.
Yeah, we'll get you
The
numbers.
stream's doing okay, but get me more Twitter followers.
See, I couldn't do that. I couldn't ask for followers like that.
Oh,
dude.
dude,
I'm shameless.
Wait till
I'm
the next
shameless.
race to world first. When we're all, it's all I do. Like 90% of me casting is just follow me on Twitter. So I've got a few. And finally, our newest member here of Method, BJ. Where can people find you?
Just Bjartuur on Twitter. I don't really stream much these days, so Twitter's where you can find me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment, algorithm. I'm just going to say the words that YouTube people say that we really, really enjoy. And if you have any questions you want answered by Method Raiders, we're looking to do more of these in the future. So leave them as a comment and maybe they'll be answered. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. This has been Method's Season 4 recap. We'll see you next time. Race to World First coming up. Can't wait to see Method. Hopefully, take it home this time. See you soon.